Hi guys, it's Mrs. Wackerly, and I will be reading Chapter 17 of Peak by Roland Smith. Chapter 17 is called Letters from Home. That first night back in base camp, I slept for 15 hours. When I finally woke up, I felt as good as I ever had felt in my entire life. I could have easily gone out for an 18,044-foot jog, but instead I walked to the mess tent and ate about 9 pounds of food. Dr. Krieger came in and watched me wolf down my last plate, then took me over to the aid tent to look at my throat. She said that it was better, but I needed to keep taking the antibiotics for the next week to make sure it went away. My next stop was HQ, where they congratulated me on making it to ABC and gave me a packet of letters from home. There was a card from Rolf, 2 letters from Mom, and 5 thick letters from Paula and Patrice. The envelopes were crumpled and smeared with dirt and grease. I looked at the postmarks. The mail had been sent to Josh's office in Chiang Mai, forwarded to Kathmandu, and from there, no doubt, thrown into a truck headed to the mountain. Thin air mail. Getting the letters caused my good mood to tank. I hadn't spent 1 minute thinking about my family since I'd arrived at base camp, and I felt a little guilty. But what really bothered me was that the letters had arrived at base camp in the first place. This meant that some of those letters I had sent to my father when I was a kid probably had arrived too. He had gone into a tent at some high-altitude camp just like this and come out with a stack of letters, which included a letter from his son. I was so mad I wanted to run up to ABC and punch him in the goggles. Instead, I decided to finish Moleskine number 1, which you are reading, and send it to my mom, kind of like a long letter. I was not going to ignore my family the same way Josh had ignored me, and it would fulfill my requirement for Vincent at GSS. The next morning, I went to the mess tent to get something to eat before getting back to the Moleskine. Sunjo wasn't there. Boy very sick, the cook told me. I took a thermos of hot tea over to Sunjo's tent. He was cocooned in his sleeping bag like a caterpillar larva, with only his stocking-capped head sticking out. "You shouldn't be here," he croaked, but I could tell he was happy to see me. His eyes were sunken and bloodshot, and maybe it was the dim light coming through the blue nylon tent, but he looked like he had lost 10 pounds since I last saw him. I poured him a cup of tea. "You shouldn't be here," he repeated. "Forget it," I said. "You and I have been swapping germs for weeks. I'm immune." I put the cup to his lips, hoping I was right. "I will be better in a few days." Looking at him, that was hard to believe, but I said I was sure he was right. I stopped by the aid tent. I wasn't sure if Dr. Krieger's duties included treating kitchen help, but if they didn't, I was going to talk her into it. She was tapping away on her laptop, but stopped when I came in. "How are you feeling today?" "Fine, but I'm worried about Sunjo." She made me open my mouth and shone a light down my throat. "Inflammation is almost gone," she said, clicking off the light, "but you need to keep taking those antibiotics, especially if you insist on visiting sick people in their tents." "So you've seen him?" I said. "Last night and this morning." And he's sick, but he'll live." I spent the next 2 days writing and managed to finish the first Moleskine on the day Josh was to return from ABC and Camp 4. When I got to the end of the notebook, I wrote letters to Paula and Patrice, thanking them for the artwork they had sent and telling them how I had pinned it up in my tent, so it was the first thing I saw in the morning and the last thing I saw at night. I told them that I missed them so bad, and I was thinking about wrestling a yak and riding it back to New York. Last, I wrote to Rolf. He had sent me a card with a photo of King Kong clinging to the Empire State Building. Inside were 3 $100 bills and a handwritten note. "Hang in there, Peak. I miss you. I want you home. Love, Rolf." Not we. I miss you. I want you home. With those 2 sentences, he had done more for me than Josh had ever done or could ever do. I went over to HQ and addressed the envelopes. Sparky told me the mail would go out the following morning. When Josh arrived late that afternoon, I didn't tell him about the Moleskine or the letters. He didn't deserve to know.